Edison Hatter here after a lengthy travel day here. It is Jugette Day as we come to you. Obviously, this is always a busy week of the year. Jugette Day, today Wednesday, tomorrow Thursday, Little Brown Jug Day. Friday, Caesar's Trotting Classic out at Hoosier Park. That's what we're here to discuss tonight. And, of course, Mohawk Million on Saturday up in Canada. So busy week. I am here in Delaware, Ohio. Photo backgrounds here. I actually took myself here today. And I got some good guests here to discuss this Hoosier card. Let's start with one of my favorite Canadians, Garnet Barnsdale. I'm feeling the love towards Canada. We got a great rendition of the Canadian National Anthem today, The Jug, and I got a very nice hello from Jody Jameson, who said he enjoys watching all of our content.
Well, there you go. Jody's a good guy, and and there's lots of Canadian content for sure. Second and third in the Jugette, and the two big favorites for the Jug tomorrow. So, looking forward to an exciting afternoon, and always happy to be here.
And we got Cheyenne Christman joining us as well, and she too out here in Central Ohio on Jugette Day. A warm day, a good day, but a little cooler. I wouldn't complain about.
Oh yeah, it was a nice breeze. And not only that though, too, the finish of the Jugette, it was really nice to see soft shot win for the small connection. So it was a great Jugette for sure. And hopefully we have a good Jug Day tomorrow.
And Mike Pribozie's here with us, and I know Mike loves watching my social media, so I'm sure you already saw it, but that was just surreal that I'm driving out, and like, oh, shoot, someone's crossing in front of me, and it looks like, oh, that's Dave Miller. Put down the window and got a handshake, and he was very happy.
I did see that. He was on his way back, I guess, from winning all the big races. Is there anybody better at Delaware than Dave Miller, really? He just dominates there. I mean, he's the Buckeye for a reason, so he certainly crushes it at Delaware every year. Great Jugette Day, huge jug tomorrow, and then a phenomenal weekend. So what a great time of year for harness racing.
Yeah, definitely a good day today. And, I said on the broadcast at one point when I was on the desk about Dave Miller, 10-1 last night in nightcap, 17-1 today in one of the, I think the Standardbred or the Buckeye or something or whatever. So, Dave Miller definitely worth paying attention to out there. So Cheyenne and I saw 22 races in 6.5 hours, something like that, at the Jugette today. But Emily Ratcliffe Gaskin, who joins us, saw 17 races the last 2 days at the Red Mile in, I think, a longer time than that.
Yeah, it's been a marathon, not a sprint at the Red Mile this season. So they are, just when I thought 14 races was a long card, Gabe introduced me to 17, 18 race type of cards with some non-betters on there as well. So plenty of racing action to go around.
Well, we have 15 races to get to at Harrah's Hoosier Park this Friday, Caesar's Trotting Classic, as well as the Hoosier Park Pacing Derby. And we'll get to discuss both of those races as well as some others. We got some pick 4 tickets to go out for Guaranteed Sequence. We'll be discussing 6 of those 15 races. First post time, 6:15 p.m. And we are going to jump in with the 5th race, Kentuckiana Stallion Management Race for the 2-year-old Philly Pacers, $185,000 on the line. And we've got the field at 9 here. Mike, how are we going to start building this bankroll before we get to this guaranteed pick 4?
This looks like a tough race here for 2-year-old fillies. Really no dominant horses. Some of the favorites here, I think the 2 and the 3 will be favored here coming out of that PA Sire Stakes final. Beckoning Yankees, the 2, always Anna Hanover, the 3. They've been facing horses like Rose, Poppy Grad, really, really nice horses. This is a drop, I think, for these 2, but they need a wake up here. I mean, the 2 was 5th in the last race. The 3 was 7th there in that PA Sire Stakes final. Now, certainly the trips weren't fantastic. They get the bigger track here, so that's a question mark. I do think really very, very difficult race and wide open. Maybe I'll try the One Heart Song. This horse is racing well in Indiana Sire Stakes. Certainly is familiar with the racetrack. 2 wins in the last 4 starts. Was roughed up last time. Certainly has a closing kick. Inside draw. There's lots to like here. Irv Miller's Barn, always very sharp with these 2-year-olds. So 6-1 morning line, I think, is very interesting. I would probably want to take on these 2 favorites in this race.
Well, Cheyenne, one of the many places we saw each other in person this summer so far was at the Meadows on Adios Day. And always Anna Hanover was defeated by Blessed Hanover. I've liked those 2 for a while. I believe I did have Blessed on top, maybe over Always Anna. I know I liked her. Always Anna was bet too short that day, in my opinion. Blessed lost for me today at the Jugette. So Always Anna Hanover is the one I'm coming back with tomorrow in this spot. I'll take one of those 2 favorites that Mike's trying to beat.
For me, I really like Always Anna Hanover. Just didn't have the best of luck with that outside post last week, right? But I also find Heart Song really interesting. I mean, it's hit the board 7 out of 10 starts. You get Trace Tetrick and the bikeman, the leading guy at Hoosier for quite some time, right? So I like the favorite, but I always like to have something underneath that can potentially go against the favorite. And I actually really like Heart Song here.
Emily, you've got a lot of local experience out there from your time at Hoosier Park. Worth asking you, as our listeners listening in, maybe unfamiliar a little bit with the track. So 7/8 mile track. We've got 9 on the gate, post 10 from the second tier. What type of tips and tricks do you have for us, not only for this race, but maybe just in general? Hoosier sometimes plays long stretch, passing lane as well.
Yeah, home court advantage is a real thing at Hoosier Park, just for those reasons that you mentioned. The long quarter mile stretch, typically a lot of these horses coming off those smaller tracks, and they get about halfway down the Hoosier Park stretch, and they're looking for the wire pretty quickly. So a home court advantage is something that we oftentimes see with these horses shipping in. It's why we see so much success with the local contingents and things like the Breeders' Crown. And things like that. It can be a hard track to navigate, particularly if you're coming off some of those smaller tracks. And if you're talking about overnights and things like that, obviously the stakes races, things play a little differently. But, typically I wait a start or two to really hammer anyone coming off of those Ohio circuits, meadows, and things like that, because really, honestly, truly, we've seen it take a start or two really for these horses to get acclimated. But obviously, with a card like this, you jump in, you play along. I do like Heart Song. She's been racing well. You can't really hold anything against her. She draws to the inside. Anytime you can get Trace Tetrick at a price, I think that merits some attention as well. Like we talked about, Always Anna, those horses I think will take some money just simply for the fact that they've been racing some pretty tough company. There's a few in here that I do like. I find it interesting. Beach Babe, we'll see her older brother, Backstreet Shadow, a little later in the card. I really like this filly. Maybe hasn't turned a whole lot of heads. She's only had the board in 1 of her 6 starts, but I particularly like her last quarters. Obviously, you guys were talking about David Miller. He's one of those guys that comes into Hoosier Park and everyone says, David Miller, he's the Buckeye, he's this, he's that. There were a few cards ago, David Miller won like 4 or 5 races right in a row at Hoosier, as casual as can be. So he's one of those guys you can never count out, whether it be Delaware, Red Mile, wherever you go. Obviously one of the leading drivers in the country for a reason. So I like her at 20 to 1 on the morning line. I wouldn't be afraid to play her underneath. I do like her a little bit. Obviously, Catawash, first crop there. So a lot to like there. And the other one I'll mention in there is Love You Cookie. Not crazy about the outside post draw, but I like the addition of Dexter Dunn. She's been holding her own in against Stakes Company. Again, outside post draw, I think things could get a little hot early. And she's one of those that, could pace home 26 pretty consistently, pace home in 25 just a few starts ago. So she's got some late closing ability, and again, just 2 long shots if you're looking to play underneath there.
Well, Garnet, obviously last year discussing the Breeders' Crown out of Hoosier, we saw a lot of kind of weird results, and these cards are always interesting whenever we're on these shows discussing. Obviously, the out-of-town Grand Circuit guys always seem to take a lot of money with some of these driver changes, but, sometimes there's an advantage to the local guys that know their track.
For sure. Before I give you my pick, I'm going to go through a little bit of promotion here. If anybody can get to this race, Hoosier Park, in my opinion, is the best place, the best track in North America to watch a race from the rail because of the way it's built. The track's kind of raised up. So when you're standing there at the rail, the track comes up to about here and the horses are at eye level. It's just phenomenal. It's like nothing that exists anywhere else. So just for that alone, it's a great place to watch races, and I would highly recommend going. Now, I did go to a Grand Circuit driver who's shipping in, and a horse nobody even mentioned in this race, Wonderkin Blue Chip, the 6. I like that. I just looked her up here on Track It. She hasn't finished worse than 4th at this track in, I think, 7 or 8 starts. I think she's coming around. She had to win 2 starts back. I don't mind that failed first over trip last time. When I look at this race, I don't see a ton of levers inside of her. So I'm thinking the money man blasts out of there and gets a good spot near the front. And I think, for the most part, Hoosier Park favors horses that race near the front throughout the mile. So I'm going to try and blow up the tote board here. You might even get more than 15 to 1 on this horse, and I'm going to take a shot with her.
Yeah, it should be definitely on the list there. It's been on my list for a while. I still have yet, Garnet, to get out to Hoosier, but I always hear good things about it. So it's definitely on the
you
list.
Haven't been to Hoosier?
You
haven't been to Hoosier, Edison?
I still have not, no.
How did I not know that? Okay, I'm going to have to talk to Jacob, your we're gonna have to get you in for handicapping, calling a race, do a little bit of everything while you're there.
One of these years, maybe it's on this trip, because I think I was talking to some of our Grand Circuit guys here today. Obviously, they're getting ready for the whole travel. A lot of them are actually driving to Hoosier. I'm told it's 2.5, 3 hours from here or so from Delaware. So,
you can hitch a ride.
One of these years we'll wander over there, maybe catch this card one of these years. But
He's been to
race
Sweden
6.
2 years in a row, but not Hoosier.
I know. I've been all over the world and not to Hoosier. Race 6, we've got $222,000 on the line for the Kentucky Stallion Management 2-year-old filly trotters. This is a field of 10, so that will feature a second-tier starter. And Cheyenne, field of 10, where do we go?
I really like the Nancy Tactor duo fillies here. I mean, I really like Kendra, just been super sharp. And then Pink Choo Choo, absolutely like her as well. I mean, hit the board in 6 for Kendra, hit the board all 6 starts, and then for Pink Choo Choo, I mean, has hit the board in all 5 of hers. So these two, I mean, as a duo, I would definitely go with either or. I just feel like they're pretty comparable. So for me, it'd be Kendra or Pink Choo Choo.
Yeah, Mike, I think decisions to be made with these two favorites, the Tactor trainees. I think both very logical. I'll say one outsider I may be looking to, maybe not to win, but at least get a piece underneath them. The one Vogish, obviously, Bill Pollock, Bruce Arman, Andrew Harris. We've seen this trio spend some serious money on some horses. In fact, Donegal Spirit was in the Jugette, one of their big purchases here this afternoon, and made the final. This one, 2 wins, 6 starts, has kind of been able to pick up some checks there in the right spots. A couple of tough trips, I thought. The breaking issues last time out, obviously taking on couple of those Commonwealth races down at the Red Mile, but that's maybe the price outsider. But Kendra, Pink Choo Choo, Mike, decisions to be made, or are we going to look elsewhere?
No, normally I'm trying to beat chalk, but these two look pretty tough here. I liked Kendra on Hambo Day and that New Jersey Sire Stakes final, and she just maybe didn't get the right trip. She's certainly been blasting early from wide posts and maybe getting tired late. I'd like to see her from off it a little bit. I do think that maybe that might be the way to go here, and maybe we'll be able to get that trip given Pink Choo Choo in this race. It's probably one of those two here. They just look faster to me. I do think that obviously they have the top connections in the sports, and they're drawn perfectly. It's not a lot there to not recommend. For a long shot for me, I'll try the 10 Pond of Fashion. Jay Hochstetler, we know how well he can train, especially at this racetrack. His horses are always very live. This horse broke last time in the Doherty whenever facing champagne problems. Pink Choo Choo, but prior to that, won a nice race. One of the Indiana Sire Stakes at 11-1. And this horse has 3 wins and 7 starts. You get the trailing post. It's going to get lost on the board too. This horse will be a big price. Now, I'm not sure if she could win the race, but he's certainly blown up some big races before from the 10 post. So a little bit of 10, I think, to go with those two favorites.
And Emily, with your connections out there, I'm assuming maybe you saw, I believe I saw on social media too, but I believe condolences to offer to the Jay Hochstetler barn. I believe lost one of his fillies recently here. Obviously, one of the difficult parts of the game and the sport that we love is obviously when things like that unfortunately happen.
Yeah, Jay Hochstetler has had quite a bit of success with these Ponda horses. Of course, you talk about races and things we're going to see. So this one actually a sister to the one we'll see a little later in the Caesars Trotting Classic in Ponda Jet. So he's had a lot of success. And the one you're speaking of, Ponda Title, I've seen a lot of 2-year-old trotting fillies, and she was one that just, really kind of rendered me speechless the first couple times that I watched her. Not only did she have, I thought, supreme talent, but just really that grittiness to win. And like I said, just looked like she had all the makings of a really great one, and had a great 2-year-old campaign, and then just unfortunately has been plagued with issues. And unfortunately, as you said, he lost her. So, like I said, tough part of the business, certainly so, but he, knows his way around a great trotter. And I agree with you in the fact that I think Pond of Fashion, I believe it was Mike said, Pond of Fashion, I give her a puncher's chance in here. Again, home court advantage, a really uncharacteristic break in her last start. So I think you kind of have to throw that line out, you do have to throw that line out because she's been ultra consistent otherwise. And just one of those issues, when the big stakes money's on the line, the drivers, the horses, whatever, I feel like they feed off that energy and she just went off stride, not something that she typically does. I personally think Pink Shoo Shoo is a step ahead of this group. She finished second in the Doherty last week to her stablemate, and she was just simply second best that night. As I just talked about, I love to give horses a start or two over the Hoosier Park surface, so I think she'll be even sharper with the start under her belt. I like that she draws to the inside, similar trip here, and I think she could be in line for a nice trip with her stablemate right to her inside. So we talk about chalk and what have you. She's going to be heavily favored come post time, but she's just one of those. I think she's a step ahead of this group, and it's going to be hairs separating her and her stablemate. And at least at this stage of the game, I think she's a step ahead of her stablemate. So I'm going to go with her for my top choice.
All right, Garnet, Barnsdale, important trivia question that if you can't answer, I'm going to count on Cheyenne to be able to answer correctly. Pink Shoo Shoo was second last week in the Doherty to Champagne Problems, the stablemate. Champagne Problems is named after?
You're asking me what Champagne Problems is named after?
Yes.
Now think about Edison asking this question. It's Edison.
Yeah. A rocket?
No, I think it's a Taylor Swift song.
I've heard this. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I heard this, but I should have known if it was Edison. I'm sure he's a big Swiftie.
Yeah, that is correct. It is Taylor Swift's song. But Garnet, who do we like in the sixth?
Well, I'm not going to give out horses. I think it's fairly obvious. The 3 and 4 are going to dominate. So what I'm going to try and do is hit a super. I'm going to use all inside fillies in this race. 3-4 with 3-4 with 1-2-10 underneath, and then maybe play that for $1, cost you $12. And then maybe for 40 cents, put the 1, 2, and 10 in second and hope one of them gets picked off. I think every horse that's on the inside in this race has an ability to leave. And I think, you're going to want to use that position to get as big a piece of a purse as you can. So that's probably the way I'd bet the race.
Well, let's look there, two of the earlier races. Hopefully we'll be able to build to bankroll for the late pick four. It's a $20,000 guarantee pick four pool, races 12 to 15. We got a couple of overnights on the back end of the sequence and a couple of big stakes races, the two features to start the sequence. So, Garnet, let's go right back to you. Let's dive into these big races. Let's start with the $165,000 Harrah's Hoosier Park Pacing Derby with the field of 10. Again, I did it my way. We'll start from the second tier. And, it feels like every time these open pacers get together, minus obviously the Bulldog year, trips matter, freshness on the day, the trip works out correctly. Any of these can win on any given day. So I think part of it's just kind of figuring out what the right price is on somebody to have a shot in this race.
Yeah, and also who you think is going to get the better trip. I must say, we're giving out pick four tickets. This is a really, really tough sequence, and I think if you can hit this thing, it's going to pay. I'm going to go 3 deep here. I think you have to use It's My Show, right? He's come back around to his best form. He was phenomenal in the stretch of the Canadian Pacing Derby. I couldn't even see him in the stretch because I was trying to take a video of it, and he was hidden behind a bucket bet Hanover, and Kenny was calling his name, and I'm like, where is he? Because I can't see him. And he followed that up with another win in 49-2, the 25-4 last quarter. He's not going to be 8-1, but I think you got to use him in this sequence. He is the one that probably will or could be sitting in the pocket in this race. Little Rocket Man, the local hope, what can you say about him other than he's phenomenal? 27 wins in his last 40 starts, just a complete, total ATM for the owners. Home court advantage has been mentioned a couple of times here. He's as sharp as attack coming off a first over 148 win in the Ewart. That's just phenomenal, right? And then I think you got to use a bucket bet coming off that tough loss in the Pacing Derby. Those are the 3 I'm going to. Obviously, you could use Charlie May, but, he's 1 for 13 this year. He seems to find tough trips and bad posts, and he's just a bad luck horse. I know Mike loves him. I'm going to try and beat him in here. He's probably going to take some money. I'm going to go 2-5-8 in this race for the pick 4 anyways.
Yeah, I guess we'll get to Mike eventually. I'm sure we know where his selection may end up. But, Emily, local horses here again, Coach Stefanos has had a lot of local starts. Little Rocket Man was, I believe, second at a big number in the Dan Patch a couple seasons ago. So, obviously, maybe an advantage again to being local.
Yeah, and I just missed the Dan Patch this year. He took a little bit of time off. I believe got a foot issue. And, as much as I've tried to beat this horse, it's one of those things that I've just kind of given up on trying to beat him because he just keeps beating me. Hated to see him as sharp as he is this year and miss the Dan Patch because I think he, would have had a serious shot about it. And he came back after that time off. And again, I tried to beat him and he went right down the road 49-4. Last quarter in 26-2, like it was nothing. Off of a qualifier, off of some issues and things like that. So, again, I don't want to be a homer and don't want to talk about home court advantage, but this horse is long overdue for a big win like this. He's, knocked on the door at this level at the Dan Patch and was so happy to see him get the Ewart because that was, really his first big win in a number of starts. Obviously Indiana Sire Stakes and local contingencies and things like that, but he has just kind of faltered as far as stepping up into that next level, if you will, as far as Grand Circuit action. He's been fourth in the Dan Patch and, obviously 1.4 million on his card. You can't knock him too much, but nonetheless, I think it is his race to lose. I think, at 8 years old, you can oftentimes talk about holds that the horses may have and things like that. I think he's as sharp as we've seen him. I think, Mike will probably talk a similar story about Charlie May. You can pick holes in him and things like that. But week in and week out, this horse steps up and doesn't seem to matter as far as the trip is concerned. I particularly don't like to trip handicap this horse because when I go out and say I think he's going to be on the front, he'll race him off the pace and pace home in 25 seconds. So I like David Miller back aboard. I like the middle of the pack. This group I think is kind of interesting, obviously with a Buckabet drawing to the outside. And I heard Andrew Harris on the broadcast for Delaware this afternoon, and he said he actually liked the inside post or the outside post draw versus an inside post draw for him. He said he felt like an inside post draw kind of forces your hand a little bit, and you can sometimes get pinned down on the rail and things like that. So he was actually he thought it was a favorable spot for his horse drawing to the outside. And of course, you got to like the Dexter Dunn back aboard in there as well. So, as far as I'm concerned, I think Little Rocket Man is the horse to beat. I'm going to use a Buckabet for the sole fact that he races extremely well over the Hoosier Park surface. And I think he's extremely sharp right now as well. And Coach Stefanos is another one of those horses that I don't think you can count out. Last year, he got so sharp at the end of the year. It seemed like he got sharper the longer the season went on. He went on a pretty good run and a pretty good roll there late. He's got just 13 starts on the season. So I think he is also just getting rolling. And he's one of those that I think, you can catch a price on 20-1, Trace Tetrick, local contingencies as well. And again, not trying to be a homer, but it's just the way that I see it in this race.
Mike, I think I'll ultimately end up using several here in the pick four, including Charlie May, don't worry. But, the one I think I'm going to take a stand against is honestly a Buckabet. Again, I think there's decisions to be made from all of us here in terms of, and the first leg of the pick four is this race. So I guess we'll get the benefit of seeing the board before we bet, but it just feels like they had to come back for a Buckabet. And, as a result, they can only bet so many of these horses, right? So I think Charlie May is probably a higher price than he could be. Little Rocket Man, is he the post-time favorite from post 5? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Buckabet always seems to take money, so curious to see how they bet those two. And the one I really like is It's My Show. I don't think we're going to see the 8-1 morning line, but again, there's only so much money to go around, so how low can he really get? And the real outsider that nobody's discussed yet that I got to toss in, Duncan, 21 wins last year, all the wins he had in North America last year. I know he hasn't always been spectacular this year in some of the races I've seen personally firsthand and called it Yonkers for him. He's had some breaking issues. He's been a little off at time, but there is that little win he had 4 starts ago here at Hoosier.
Absolutely. And there's a horse you didn't mention that really last year would probably be, 3 to 5 in this race, and By the Missile, who just came back off of injury, and nobody mentioned him yet so far. I'm going to try to beat Little Rocket Man. I do think that when he steps up to this level of horse, that he could. He's not the favorite in my mind. Can he win? Absolutely can win. He loves to win, but he's doing it the hard way. He's winning a lot of open races, and he loves Scioto, obviously. And so that race set up for him perfect. He was in the right part of the flow at the time he needed to be, and just kicked perfectly to win. Whereas Charlie May got held up behind a stopper on the front, and he ended up winning a a 6-horse photo for third in that race. Obviously, he wasn't going to win the way it shook out, but just with the Little Rocket Man, got the perfect run of the race at that time. But I think you could use a lot in here. And of course, Charlie, I love that he raced on Sunday at Delaware, was totally against the racetrack, ended up third, probably 2 steps after the wire. He would have won the race. He loves this racetrack here. Plenty of big efforts. 4-1 morning line, I think, is very low. I do think he will drift up off of that. I do think he will be over 5-1. He could be even higher than that whenever you consider It's My Show taking money, Little Rocket Man taking money, Buckabet takes money, By the Missile will take money. I do think you probably want to use him. Needed that race last time, came flying, and a 48.3 mile after being off for a long time. He's lightly raced this year. I mean, he's only made $2.1 million. If he's back to himself, I think he's a use. I use Duncan. I use It's My Show. I'd be heavy Charlie, but I'm going to use some of those other ones, especially the 1, the 2. Use a buck of bets, but not as much as some of the others. I do think he can win it, but
I agree.
Try to beat the 5 and 8 in the race. I want some of the others.
By the Missile gets Gingras back too, which I didn't notice. Paige drove in the last 2 starts. You're right. If By the Missile's himself, he'll win from the 9 hole. I'm just not convinced he is.
So Cheyenne, obviously Don Tiger, Charlie McDonough, been on the show several times. Good friends of the show and the channel here, and always have to mention. I say this. I think I said this last year because on the show basically we saw the same lines, but I just love the fact that we've seen this horse race at Delaware, Ohio. We saw him race at another one of the Ohio fairs 4 starts ago. A couple of these Scioto races everywhere. Don really does send this horse everywhere, and it's really cool to see. That he doesn't take any races as too small for say to send his horse to. So pretty cool to see where he sends Charlie May.
Oh, absolutely. And not only that, too, Don Tiger is really about promoting Charlie May. And I saw that he was giving out autographs and T-shirts to the people that are fans of Charlie May. I mean, this is like Ohio's horse. I mean, along with By the Missile, too, is being an Ohio bred as well. But there's just people who just they love watching this horse race and they just love Charlie May. And for me, I went with, I couldn't leave him off my ticket. I thought he was definitely worthy of being on there. Also, too, I like It's My Show. It's My Show's really coming into form right now after winning the Canadian Derby. I just think this horse you just can't leave off of your ticket. And then the favorite, if I hear it being 5-2, Little Rocket Man, I'm going to quote Jeremy Smith when Wendy Ross interviewed him about for the Battle of Lake Erie when he won it. This horse has a third lung. This horse can do it any way, can win however you want, however you see fit. And this horse, I think is the best in this race. Do I like a Buck of Ben Hanover? Yes. I'm just not in love with this outside post for him. I just feel like, but this horse could potentially win too. And also too, the points that you guys brought up about By the Missile. If he's back in top form of where he was, last year, I think he could win from post 9. It's just, I just need to see, especially when a horse is coming back from an injury, needs a couple of starts. You know what I mean? So for me, I went 3 deep here. I went with It's My Show, Little Rocket Man, and Charlie May. But one thing I got to say, this was such a hard race to handicap. You could make a point for, 6 of these horses. You know what I mean? So it was tough, but you gotta keep that ticket budget friendly, right? So for me, as I said, I went 3 deep here.
Oh, well, you know what? You should keep it budget friendly for the rest of us, but if you're Ray Catolo and you just have the endless pockets he does, Ray just throws thousands of dollars into these sequences. And speaking of Ray, he is graciously producing for us tonight, and he was also on Pete Fornatow's flagship show earlier today, graciously filling in for me, who had spotty cell coverage there in Delaware, Ohio at the Jugette. So Ray Catolo, Pete Fornatow, they discussed these 2 big races. You can catch that. And Ray was giving out $1,000 win bets he's going to be placing tomorrow. So Mike, as well as I do, Ray's bankroll is just endless on these races, including the Caesars Trotting Classic coming up for $200,000. Ray's definitely got $2,000 on his top choice in here.
We did see full degenerate Ray Catolo last year for a little while anyway, at least I recall. I'm not sure if he's really at that level right now, but you need to make a decision on curriculum in this race. He's really very much come into his own since Scott Zeron has taken over, crushed Maple Leaf Trot elimination, crushed the final, was 3-5 in the Maple Leaf Trot final. just unbelievable that this horse has gone from where he was. I mean, he was racing in Sweden last year to this now, that he's the absolute top of the free-for-all trotting class. And I think he deserves to be. He raced great in the international trot from a tough post. Nobody was beating Jiggy Jog that day. Well, he went right by the Invaders without a problem to be second in that race. And he took a lot of money. He was 4-1 there versus those horses. Now you get back to the big track. I don't know. He looks very, very tough to me, but he's a little quirky, like Ray said today on Pete's show. So he isn't without his issues. If he doesn't win, I think maybe one of the 4-year-olds do. Chapper Kraz, I think, is a definite player in this race. He's only had one win this year, but lots of tough trips, has been in a lot of the dances. If you look through the lines, Jiggy Jog, It's Academic, Winner's Bet, facing the top of the trotting division and racing very well all the time. I mean, a lot of his races just look, he won the handbook maturity at 32-1 from almost an impossible spot from the 10 hole in that spot. So he's definitely capable. Yeah, It's Academic back in this race. He won this race for fun last year. Now, really, he's off form. Not the same as he was. I mean, he won 950,000 last year. He's 15-1 morning line in this race. If he's back to himself, and maybe Curriculum isn't, quite himself, I do think this horse plays a little bit. I don't want to give up on him, so I would use that one. Winner's Bet is obvious. He's another one. That's another 4-year-old that is a bit hit and miss, but his big races definitely fit for Nancy Tactor. Pretty wide open race. I would be heavy on Curriculum in this ticket just because the wide open races of some of the other ones. But you definitely want to back up, I think, with It's Academic, with Chapper Kraz, with with Winner's Bet. Those are horses that can win. I'm going to be against MM's Dream. I just, from this post versus these horses, and she's not quite what she was in the past several years, I'll be against her. And that's how I see it.
Emily, I find I'm always biased towards horses that I see, that I call. So obviously Curriculum coming out of the international trot might be biased here, but second to Jiggy Jog, who is clearly one of the best possibly on the planet right now. I believe trainer Marcus Melander, after the Maple Leaf and accepting the international trot, even mentioned that, the half probably isn't his best track, but you're invited to $1 million race. You're going to take a shot. Obviously raced well, gets to the 7/8 at Hoosier. I think it really is Curriculum's race. I think Scott Zeron has a very, very strong chance in this race. And if it's not him, I think it becomes pretty wide open, but I think he gets it done.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I went long and hard to, try to find a different candidate, but I just kept coming back to him, for all those reasons that you mentioned, obviously. I just think this horse has found his stride right now as a 5-year-old. I think, and it was a little bit by design, right? Like as Mike mentioned, he was in Sweden. They've had plenty of opportunity to stand this horse or, breed him or take him off the track. But they decided to bring him back. And I thought it was interesting too, because they qualified him back in April, gave him a little bit of time. They really have not rushed this horse as far as his 5-year-old campaign is concerned. And they've been, like you said, picking their spots, and you get invited to $1 million race, you got to be in it to win it. And I was quite surprised at how well he raced there. But I just think, what have you, he really was lightly raced as a 2-year-old. Never really, it just looks like he's getting better with age. And I think he's, really finding his best strides right now. And so I think they're going to try to capitalize on that, right? Get as much as you can while the getting is good. And obviously racing with a lot of confidence, hasn't raced at Hoosier, which is a little bit of a concern. But, he's got $1 million on his card. He's been to Sweden. He's been all over. So as far as, navigating the track and things like that, not necessarily an issue. Obviously, Scott Zeron a huge plus as well. But I agree with you. I think it is his race to lose. And I think he's just, kind of a step ahead. Whereas Cheyenne was mentioning, you make a case for a number one of these, kind of a similar story for Curriculum here, and the fact that I think that you could make a case for him against every one of these other horses. So in my opinion, he is the one to beat. I agree a little bit with It's Academic as well. Huge fan of this horse, huge fan of what he's done, obviously throughout his career, and then also at Hoosier Park as well. I like the inside post draw. I think his last 2 starts have been deceptively good. And when I say good, deceptively better than what they look on paper. He was a pretty decisive winner at Northfield in 52-4. I went back and watched the replay. You really couldn't have raced any better off of, that layoff and things like that. So, and then I think, he had some excuses in his last. I like the inside post draw for him. I think he should be in line for a nice ground saving trip. As Mike said, he won this race in 2023. He finished second in 2022. So he's got the rap sheet. He's got the pedigree around that as well. And then winner's bet. My only concern here is that I do agree that I think he's going to take a lot of money, and he really hasn't had a lot of success at Hoosier. He finished 6th in his Breeders' Crown elimination last year, finished 7th in the Erskine. So he really, and that could have been just that it was late in the season. But he's obviously racing super sharp right now. Win would put him over the $1 million mark. So I have to believe that's, kind of a notch on his belt that they're looking to get. One that I am going to take a stand against is Oh Well. I'm not a huge fan of this horse. So I'm not going to be using him at all. And I think he'll take some money, with the inside post draw and the Melander collection. So I'm not going to be using him anywhere on my ticket. He just lacks that punch to me. And I think Hoosier Park is one of those tracks that, makes or breaks you. And I don't think that he's got the grittiness down that long quarter-mile stretch. Watched him in the Hambletonian and things like that. And he just lacks kind of that big punch, in my opinion. And I really haven't seen him, obviously, winless in 8 starts this year. I really haven't seen him punch through this year. So I'm going to be taking a stand against him. I'm going to use Periculum, and it's Academic on my ticket as well for a little bit of a price with that inside post draw, that Ron Burt contingency there.
All right, Cheyenne, we are I'm on my phone, which I rarely am, so I'm catching up on comments, which is basically just Kevin Plow just saying things that probably don't even need to be shared anyway, but whatever. French Champagne, the Elegant Image. Okay, great. We're giving out Mohawk picks here now. Blessed Hannah, so much racing luck. Don't know how he liked her today. Yeah, that's great because Kevin told me that Pappy Grad couldn't lose today, so clearly that went well for him. And Kevin's need a horse champagne poetry next. Okay, Kevin's been really pop culturing lately, Cheyenne. He's getting his Taylor Swift knowledge. He's been learning a lot about the Bachelorette. He's really just learning everything.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's great that he's watching and tuning in some way. But I'm going to talk about this race really quick. So I really like the 4 horse here. Just been consistent, just been very solid. I like winner's bet. When I saw this horse was in the Ewart, I was like, this horse is worth the bet. I was surprised to see this horse at 6-1. Didn't think the horse would go off at 6-1, but really that winner's bet just won that race with ease. So he's coming into that race off of a win. But another horse I really like that nobody's really talked about, I like Pondajet. I like the home connections. No, it wasn't that long ago that this horse trotted in 150, which was basically, I believe, is one of the fastest trotting miles at Hoosier Park. Yeah. Track record there. So this horse definitely has the capability if something weird were to happen. I definitely think this horse can get the job done too. So for me, I went 3 deep here. I went 4, 5, and 6.
Garnet?
I agreed with most of what Mike said and almost everything that Emily said. I will not get sucked in on Oh Well again like I have many times before. I got a gut feeling one of the inside 2 is going to trip out and win this race. I don't know what kind of a drive Periculum's going to get. If he gets a more aggressive steer, he probably wins easy. But why would you race him more aggressively when dropping back to 6th every race is what's working? And I could see him getting held up somewhere in this race. So I'm also using 1, 2, 4, and 6, similar to like I said, Mike and Emily. But I'm hoping to beat Periculum. I could see him potentially getting into some kind of traffic issue and one of these 2 Burke horses tripping out and winning up the passing lane. So I'm going to hope to get a price.
I've seen that so many times, Garnet. I've seen that so many times. A Burke horse tripping out, and I'm like, why did I not use that horse?
Right.
It's happened so many times. They fly under the radar, and just one of those things. I've seen it so many times. So I will agree with you there.
All right.
Producer Ray Catolo is saying Kevin shouldn't follow me when it comes to these things. It's always a fun challenge when Ray's producing and he's not there because he wants to come in and bug us. How can we get him irritated enough to come in? I think I've got the line. We shouldn't listen to Ray because all Ray has ever introduced me to is White Castle, which he thinks is the greatest food of all time, and it was horrifically disgusting whenever he introduced me to that one day at the Meadowlands. So is that enough, Ray, to get anything out of you? No? Okay. Race 14. Let's go to these two overnights here before we give out some pick four tickets. Garnet, let's go right back to you. Non-winners of 4 or 55,000 lifetime on the pace. The field of 9 here. Late double time. Last 2 legs of pick four. Who do we like?
This is a very tough race. I landed on JD's King James on top, the 4 horse at 12-1. Kind of got hot there for a while at Scioto, and his last start from the 9 hole had absolutely no chance. It still managed to only lose, beaten 2 lengths. I like that Tetrick lands on this one. The other 3, I'll go through it quickly, that I'm going to use is Midnight Rocker, exiting the Hoosier Cup with second beaten a nose in elimination. Fairly obvious, but seems to take a lot of narrow losses too. I'm also using the 8, Seaside Escape. I think, that horse's form speaks for itself. 11 times on the board in 16. Comes off a pretty good effort in the Kentucky Commonwealth. And the 4th one I'm using at a bit of a price is Evil Eye Flegel, the 5. Was pretty decent in the Hoosier Cup elimination, only beaten 2 lengths there from the 8 hole, had really no chance. I think if this one is probably going to get a more aggressive steer from LaWayne Miller and has a shot, but this race is really, in my opinion, very wide open.
Yes, Cheyenne, I agree with that. That's why I'm happy to single curriculum to keep it cheap through that leg, because I'm going to be pretty deep here.
Yeah, for me, this was a tough race to handicap, but I only decided on 2. I really liked Premier Romeo. I think you could really pitch that last start. Had the 7 hole, really just didn't have a shot. I see this horse has capability. A couple starts back, this horse did close in 26-2, which I think is very impressive. And then I moved down here to Seaside Escape. Do I love the 8 hole for this horse? No, but this horse has just been so consistent. You just can't deny it, and has been consistently racing in some of the sire stake action, and you're going into an overnight. I think this horse is also one of the ones that I think would be really hard to beat. So I went too deep here. I just went with the 3 and the 8.
Emily?
Yeah, I think interesting race, as everybody said. I will reiterate what everyone said. I think you could go a number of different directions. A few horses I will mention in here. I am not a particular fan of Midnight Rocker. I actually was a big fan of this horse as a 2-year-old, and he's just kind of lacked that punch again this year. So I'm not a huge fan of him. So I'm going to try to take a stand because I think he'll take some money. There's a few horses in here like Bet You Stay from the Trent Solar Barn. This is a 4-year-old that has been super lightly raced, and he's got a lot of speed. And to me, it just looks like they're kind of picking their spots, and he's drawn to the outside in his last 2 starts. They aside from 2 back, they did leave pretty alertly there, but I just think this race sets up nicely for him, and I think he's due for a big effort. And like I said, he's been lightly raced, nothing left on the table. I think they're going to try to get what they can get. And then Premier Romeo, I really like this horse. Trainer Jay Hostetler has been high on this horse. He's been one of those kind of tweener horses, not necessarily a stakes horse. He's tried in the stakes, but and he's been racing against stakes company, and he's held his own, but maybe not the top level. So he's been bouncing around, when I say tweener, in between the conditions and the stakes. And so when he drops into a condition like a non-winners of 4, I think that he should take some money, and deservedly so, because I think he's got the speed and ability to get the job done. Last one I'll mention is the 9, A New Endeavor. This horse adds Lasix. He was ultra impressive. Went on like a 4 or 5 race win streak early on in the season. He was not made eligible to the sire stakes, so had some soundness issues and things like that at 2. They decided to put the horse on the shelf, bring him back at 3, and as I said, he went on like a 4 or 5 race win streak there, and wasn't made eligible to the sire stakes, so he's been bouncing around in against conditions. Not crazy about the outside push off, but I do like the addition of Lasix. This is a speedy horse, and I think if not this start, maybe next start, second start of Lasix, I think will really help this horse. And like I said, he's fast, and trainer Charlie Stewart's one of our top conditioners here at Hoosier Park, so certainly merits some attention every time he sends one behind the gate.
Mike, I feel like Midnight Rocker in this race is he's the favorite. I think he probably gets a little over bet, so I'm going to try to take a swing against 1, 3, 4, 8 for me. The 4, JD's King James, 12-1 morning line, most intriguing price I have, like Garnet, like that one. But the 8, Seaside Escape, despite the outside post, some of those races he comes through down at the Red Mile. I really like that one, potentially on top at 5-1 on the morning line. But again, tricky race, had to use several.
Very tricky. I agree with Emily on a lot of this. The two Bet You Stay, 4-year-old versus a bunch of 3-year-olds, and is racing very well. Draws much better. Had 9, 9, and 8 the last 3 starts, and raced well on all those starts. And racing against, I think, tougher horses than a lot of these horses have been facing. Can be from on the pace or off the pace. Has plenty of kick. Marvin Luna has greatly improved. I mean, really is getting better all the time. I really like him. I think that this horse has a huge chance to win. 6-1 morning line, and the money's going to be spread everywhere. I agree on the 9 also. 6-4-11 lifetime, and last time really no chance. Probably should be a little better here. If you look back, 26-1 kick and a 51-1 mile, then only managed third in that Hoosier Cup elimination. But prior lines are very solid also. This horse is raced in fast races. I think could get ignored from an outside post. And then, Steve Carter, he had some space in the van, I think, with Charlie. So he brought Seaside Escape over. He's live with everything he puts in. The horse gets back on Lasix. Those are fast races, and Kentucky and Scioto, this horse is racing against. So I'll use those 3. I'm a little nervous because I don't think Garnet mentioned any one of those. This might be an all race. Really difficult. And also, how does Team Earl Jones already get a memorial? Didn't he die like 5 minutes ago? I mean, that was like really quick that he got a memorial.
That was quick.
I was wondering that too.
Mike, slight detour, although to be fair, it'll come with a promo statement here. Let's see, you've got the blurred background behind you. We know all of your Chanel bags are back there. You get one every time that Jinsky wins. Are we on him tomorrow in the Little Brown Jug?
How could you not be on him? Absolutely on him. Yeah, he's only lost 1 race this year. I do think the half-mile track sets up well for him. He looms very large in the Jug tomorrow. Good luck beating the Jinsky tomorrow.
Well, if you check out.
Wait, I should know this, but I don't. Has he raced on a half?
I don't think he has, but that doesn't really concern me.
No, I'm not saying it matters. I just didn't know if he had. I'm not saying it matters. I don't think it affects him either. I just was curious if he'd raced on a half before.
Well, we will have plenty more thoughts tomorrow. You can see it already on YouTube. It is scheduled. Ray Catola will be anchoring the back end of Horse Players Happy Hour leading into a Little Brown Jug live stream. We've got some interviews that I was able to get today at the Jugette. Mike's probably going to be on there some. I'll jump in there. We'll do some discussions. We'll discuss these races more. Maybe we'll discuss some more White Castle reviews from Ray Catola. We'll get into a lot of stuff, I'm sure, tomorrow afternoon with the time that we have. But, yeah.
Have you had their breakfast? Have you had their breakfast sandwiches? White Castle breakfast sandwiches?
There's nothing more I want to have from there after whatever Ray had me take. Ray can answer that tomorrow. Or now. At least text it to us, Ray, in the private chat. At least give us something. Give me something to say for you on behalf of your defending of your White Castle. In the meantime, while I wait for that, Mike, you can tell us about the 15th and final. Who are you going to use to close out this pick 4? Now-winners of 32.51 on the pace.
Another tough race for me. I'm going to use the 2 and the 3. The 2 Madeline's Blackjack. Tough post last time. Race well. Kicked 26-2. Draws inside here. I do think should be closer and probably out kicks them. I think Scott Zeron was listed initially on that horse. Now you get Brandon Bates. I did maybe like him a little more with Brandon Bates, with Scott Zeron and the bike. But Brandon, certainly a capable replacement. I'll use that one. And then the 3, Art It Is, another one that gets a driver switch here, gets an inside post, comes out of fast races. Only 1 for 20 this year, though. But in a tough finale, I'll try the 2 and the 3.
Garnet, we're totally detouring here, but I'm curious now while we're on the topic of fast food. Every time I drive up to visit you, and to be fair, last time I visited you, I ate that macaroni on burger or whatever, so I'm clearly willing to eat anything as well. But
and poutine on the side, which
poutine, yes.
You must have an iron cast stomach to eat all that stuff in one sitting.
What is A&W or whatever? That's Canadian fast food, right? How good is that? I always pass by it. I don't know, just like the outside of it at least looks appealing.
It's pretty good. They're famous for their root beer. If you like root beer, when you go in there and sit down, they have these frosty mugs they pull out of a freezer. I hate root beer, but if you like it, it's a place you should go. Their breakfast sandwiches are probably the best in Canada. Really good, and their burgers are pretty good. I mean, they're not homemade burgers; they're frozen patty or whatever. But the buns are really good there. They toast them unlike anywhere else. I would recommend going for sure, but breakfast sandwich for sure. Their breakfast sandwiches are great.
Well, who do we like in this 15th race to hopefully buy us some?
This is my only single. The 3 Art It Is. One at this class, 4 starts back at this level, absolutely jogged, and then just faced much better horses that paced in 150 and change every race and wasn't disgraced. So Art It Is, number 3 in the 15th, will be my only single in this sequence, and I think history repeats from his August 9th race where he jogged.
All right, Cheyenne. To be fair, the clue should be taken at this point that I got the opportunity to eat exactly once today at about 2 o'clock. I'm going to find something once we're done here in the VIP tent today to Jugette. So I guess I'm in a hungry appetite. But Cheyenne, picks for the 15th race and your favorite fast food place?
So my picks for the 15th, I like the 3 Art It Is. I like the fact that you get Dexter Dunn in the bike. I think that's great. And then, as Garnet said here, won this race a couple starts back and 51-3 last quarter and 27-1. But another horse I like in here is the 7. Sure Thing Herman. You get Trace Tetrick in the bike, which I think is great. We move a little bit closer to the inside. Last week had post 9. This week it's post 7. So, we move in a little bit. Is it that much of an advantage? Probably not, but neither here or there. But, this horse has the speed and has the capability. And, with Trace being kind of the leading guy at Hoosier, I think if he gets the right trip, I think he can get the job done. So, I only went 2 deep here, was the 3 and the 7. And my favorite fast food place. Well, I really like Wendy's. I'm a Wendy's person. If I want to get food, but then I like Dunkin' Donuts too. And then actually I ate one thing today and then I actually just picked up Buffalo Wild Wings. So I'm going to have that after this is over.
Emily, you're now down in Lexington. I surely have spent plenty of time with places that Gabe Pruitt, both good, bad, ugly. So I'm sure Gabe's introduced you to something in the Lexington food scene.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I've got to petition the commissioner of Lexington or something because, with those 17, 18 race cards, we get down there and it's Sunday night at 10 o'clock and literally the only thing open is BW3. So I actually went to the University of Kentucky and graduated from UK. So very familiar with the Lexington scene. But yeah, interestingly enough, since I've been down here, all we've really got to enjoy is BW3s because that seems to be the only thing that's open at 11:30 at night on a Sunday in a college town, which is kind of crazy. But I digress. Like I said, I would have to talk to somebody more official than Gabe, which is hard to believe. I don't think it gets much higher up there in Lexington, but nonetheless. What are we talking about? The 15th race or what I like for fast food or what are we talking about?
We'll take your 15th race picks, I suppose, before we derail too far.
Okay, very good, very good. I agree with Madeline's Blackjack. I'm actually taking a big stand against Sure Thing Herman here, and he might very well beat me. I'm a fan. I've always been a fan of this horse, but he is super, super flat right now. I've actually played him quite a bit the last few weeks, and he has been thoroughly disappointing. And typically, what I've seen from this horse, I've watched him since he was a 2-year-old. He does that. He's pretty streaky. He can get really hot and then get really flat. And I think he's on the downward swing. That's just my opinion. Like I said, he could very well beat me in this spot. With Trace Tetrick aboard, I've seen Trace Tetrick win with much less horse flesh than Sure Thing Herman. So it could certainly happen. But I'm going to take a stand against him. I think he's going to be overplayed. So I like Madeline's Blackjack. This is kind of a similar story we were talking about earlier. Horse was racing super sharp over on the Ohio circuit, Dayton, Miami Valley, and the likes. They gave him a little bit of time off. He's been up, he's been down, but I really think he's just getting rolling. His last start really, to me, kind of showed that he's on the upward swing. Paced home in 26-2. Junior Haynes, one of our top conditioners at Hoosier Park. So I think he's on the upward swing, and then I'm also including Art It Is.
Same too. I land on taking a stand against Sure Thing Herman. The 3 Art It Is agreeing with you and Garnet there, and the 2 Madeline's Blackjack. You know what? I bet this horse last Friday. I got to feel the Ray Catolo, Scott Zeron disappointment. I was down. I said, all right, it's time to get even or get even worse.
Yeah, throw it at him.
Scott let me down. So, going to count on Brandon Bates this week with this horse. But, post 11, tough draw last time out. Draws post 2 here, so we'll see how the trip works out. So, 2-3 For me there to close us out in the 15th, Kevin Plow just says, as a disclaimer, he's never watched The Bachelorette on this chat, and then he privately texted me and says, Shh, I don't need everybody to know how much I watched of Jen's season. So clearly he knows enough that Jen was the most recent Bachelorette. All right, Mike, Pribozie, pick 4 ticket. Give us, you're going to have that new Chanel bag after Nijinsky wins for you tomorrow. We're going to get more on Friday night with this pick 4 ticket and the $20,000 guaranteed pool.
Yeah, pick 4 for Hoosier Friday. Race 12, naturally, we're going to use Charlie May, but we're going to use a couple others in there. Use Duncan, use It's My Show. I'll use a buckabout also. 1, 2, 7, 8. Curriculum, I'd back up with It's Academic there, though, in the 13th race. You could use a little Chappercrass, too, as a B type for the 13th. Give me the 2, 8, and 9 for race 14, 2 and 3 to finish up.
Ditto.
I went 2, 5, 8 with 1, 2, 4, 6 with 4, 5, 7, 8 with 3 for $24. Chick-fil-A is the best fast food in the world, and the winner of the jug is going to be whichever Casey Coleman horse draws the rail, because neither horse is going to be able to pass the other one when they get the rail.
Chick-fil-A is so mid, Garnsdale. Take that back.
No, it's fantastic.
It's terrible.
Legendary at Mohawk a week ago.
Oh, Garnet, you win. You got Ray to show up.
Be much different drive this time, Mike.
It's basically like chewing a dog toy, and then you swallow it, and then
you lose
it
all
feels like a
credibility
dog
if
toy
you
in your
put
stomach.
White Castle in your mouth.
You can put so much White Castle in your mouth. You can fit like 4 burgers inside one mouth. I've tried.
Ray Cacolo has entered the chat.
Answer this question. Have you had a breakfast burrito from Chick-fil-A? Have you had a breakfast burrito from Chick-fil-A? Answer this question before you continue to hate on it.
I think I had some version of their McMuffin.
Okay, that's your first mistake.
Oh.
Breakfast burrito. Get the breakfast burrito next time, and then come talk to Garnet at 9.
I can't. I only go on Sundays.
Oh.
Wait.
Oh,
Garnet, so do we have okay, we're really digressing here, but I just got to ask Garnet. So what do we have in Canada? Do we have everything? Chick-fil-A's, Burger King?
There's only a couple of those. There's only a couple of Chick-fil-A's here in Toronto.
Okay.
They're starting to expand a little bit, but we have pretty much everything else. We don't have White Castle. That'll never open here, and that garbage will never get eaten.
That's good. That's very good. Emily, pick 4?
Pick 4. I agree pretty closely with Mike. In the 12th race, I'm going to go, but I'm going to add the 4. Coach Stefanos. I'm going 4, 5, 8 in the 12th. In the 13th, I agree. I'm going with the Curriculum and Winner's Bet. And I'm sorry, I made that wrong. Curriculum and It's Academic in there. And then 14th race, I'm going the 2, 3, 9, and I'm rounding it out with the 2, 3.
Cheyenne?
For me, for race 12, it's 2, 5, 7. Race 13, it is 4, 5, 6. Race 14, it's 3, 8. And then race 15, it's 3, 7. For 50-cent base wager, it is going to equal $12.
I am at $16 for 50 cents. 1, 2, 5, 7 with 4, with 1, 3, 4, 8 with 2, 3. And it was not a great Jugette gambling day for me. So I'm going to be counting on Jug Day, this card, and probably even still going to need Mohawk Million Day to get us out of the hole we have dug for the
random
week.
ping pong game you can get even with, or like.
Well, that's that too, but we'll save that for like Sunday morning. We're gonna try to get out with these good races to start. But all right,
at least get an elephant ear while you're at Delaware. Get some good fair food while we're talking about food and fast food and things like that. Get some an elephant ear, maybe some French fries, something of the sorts. Good food at Delaware.
I watched Pete Aiello get some mountain of fries today at the fair that looked very interesting. I did not partake. I did get a root beer float with Ryan Ziddick and no Jeff Ziddick. Jeff Ziddick didn't even care to come out and visit us at the Jug.
He's probably in Vegas.
He was. He literally is. All right, before we wrap up, to make producer Ray happy, he can record the promo of the 30 seconds of all of us giving thoughts on the 2 big races to make Ray happy, so he has it for social media. If he's going to put me in a picture by myself so I can start if he's listening, if he's not too focused on all this food stuff. There we go. Edison Hatter here, ahead of this Friday's card at Harrah's Hoosier Park. Includes 2 of the signature races out there in the Hoosier Park Pacing Derby and the Caesars Trotting Classic. Races 12 and 13 on Friday night kick off the $20,000 guaranteed late pick 4 pool. And I got 4 experts here to give you a quick 30-second thoughts on both races. Mike Pribozie, we need 2 picks from you in 30 seconds. Race 12, race 13.
Harrah's Hoosier Park Pacing Derby. Got to go with my boy Charlie May. Just can't get enough of Charlie. Only one win this year, but he's had some tough trips. He got a prep on Sunday at Delaware. Look for Charlie to make amends here at Hoosier in the 12th. I'll go with Curriculum for the Caesars Trotting Classic. He looks obvious. Scotty Z has taken the lines, and he has turned into a different animal. I think Curriculum going to be very difficult to beat in the Caesars Trotting Classic.
Emily Ratcliffe Gaskin.
12th race, Hoosier Park Pacing Derby. I'm going to go. My top choice in there is Little Rocket Man, winningest horse in the field over the Hoosier Park surface, also in the winningest post position. I think he has found his best strides here at 8 years old. He's racing extremely sharp. You get Purple Jesus, David Miller aboard. He's won 10 of 13. And as I said, it's got a lot of versatility. I think it is his race to lose. 13th race, then the Caesars Trotting Classic. I'm going with Curriculum. Much the same story. I think this horse is a step above this group. He's racing with a lot of confidence, and I think he's just getting better with every passing start. Love the money man in the bike as well. Hasn't had a whole lot of Hoosier Park experience, but what he lacks in Hoosier Park experience, he's got $1 million on his card. He makes up for elsewhere. So Curriculum is my top choice in that Caesars Trotting Classic.
Cheyenne Christman.
For me, in the 12th race, I got to go with Little Rocket Man. Just been super consistent. And not only that, though, too, like this horse can just do it anyway. However you see fit, I think that the horse can get it done. The second horse I think that would be worthy of consideration is that number 2, It's My Show. Definitely think that horse has a shot there. And then I would go with, and then in race 13, I just got to single out the 4 here, Curriculum, and because this horse has been super consistent, you just can't beat him here.
And last but certainly not least, Garnet Barnsdale.
Yeah, for the pacing derby, I'm going to go to It's My Show, the 2. I think he gets the trip, probably wins up the passing lane for the money man. And in the Caesars Park Trotting Derby, I'm going to go to number 6, Winner's Bet, who's much, much better at 4. He's won 5 of 8 starts, comes off a big win in the Hill Memorial. Maybe sits on Curriculum's helmet and gets him at the wire in this race.
It is going to be the Scott Zeron Show Friday night. It's My Show. 2 wins in a row, looking to build on his recent success. Going to take the Hoosier Park Pacing Derby and race 13 Curriculum. Second most recently international trot. Very impressive effort that day on the half. Winner of the Maple Leaf Trots. Now comes back to the big track for the Caesar Trotting Classic. He's going to take that one as well. Scott Zeron takes both big races. Harrah's Hoosier Park this Friday, September 20th, 2024. 15 races, 6:15 first post. And again, races 12 and 13, the 2 signature races. Best of luck playing at Hoosier this Friday. Alrighty, and that should make producer Ray Catolo happy. And we should be just about wrapped up here. Plenty of upcoming stuff here. Again, tomorrow, Thursday afternoon, about 5:30, we'll be taking over Horse Players Happy Hour for Pete Fornatal and the rest of the team for the Little Brown Jug live show with Ray Catolo hosting. There's a look at that graphic. Mike Pribozie with, I believe, Rory Slough just recorded for the Mohawk Million card this weekend. Mike, we also got some Fraser action on there?
Yeah, Fraser Friday. Don't forget Contest Jockey every Friday now. So free contest. Go to contestjockey.com. Check out that for Fraser Fridays and Mohawk Million card for Saturday. Murray and I have both of them for you on the Hardest Players podcast this week.
And if you're looking to future attractions, we will have a live stream on Sunday, October the, let's go with 6th. I think that's correct. Sunday, yes. October 6th from the Red Mile for their big day of stakes. And I will be on site live. First time ever, Lexington, Kentucky. And you know, Emily, I think after all these years, we still never met in person. So did we maybe handle Day one of the years? Maybe?
I think we did, yes. Back in the day, it was like in passing. But happy to have you in Lexington. I can't wait to host you. And maybe we'll get Gabe to take us out somewhere actually decent to eat, but probably not. He's cheap.
Yeah, I was trying to talk to Gabe about that today at the Jugette. It wasn't going very well, so we're not sure on that
Tony's. Go to Tony's of Lexington.
The best.
Good steak.
All right, well, we're having way too much food discussion. That's a sign it is time for us all to go eat dinner, or at least me and Cheyenne. We were, excuse me, at Jugette all day. If you three haven't eaten by 10:30, that's on you three. But regardless, thanks for tuning in. Best of luck this Friday, Hoosier Park. Again, lots of big racing action. Jug tomorrow, Caesars Trotting Classic Friday, Mohawk Million Saturday. We've got it all covered here in the Money Media Network. We'll talk to you next time here. Hope all your bets are winning ones.